Revival of the dead. The most remarkable of the countless miracles that happened during his stay at Sakardara and Waki were the cases of reviving the dead and of curing incurable diseases. The most famous of such cases was the case of Sheru, his dog. This dog displayed an unusual awareness of the saint's greatness and regarded service to him and his devotees its duty. Every day, Sheru used to go to the railway station punctually at the scheduled times of trains to receive and guide the devotees to his master, wherever he might be at that hour, in Waki or the neighboring jungles. This became such a regular feature of this dog's life that visitors first looked out for Sheru immediately on their arrival at the railway station. On one occasion, a certain gentleman got down from a train. As usual, he looked out for Sheru, but it could not be found anywhere near the place. He then joined a couple of other people who were also going to visit Tajudeen Baba. All along, the visitors went on talking of the dog Sheru and wondered why it did not receive them that day. When they finally reached Tajudeen Baba's tent, they found that the saint was not there. They had to search him out in vast jungles that were at a little distance. They keenly felt the absence of Sheru because the dog used to spare them the pain of vainly searching for the Baba, for Sheru used to lead them straight to him. As they went about searching Tajudeen Baba in the jungles, they were shocked to see the dead body of the dog Sheru. They were awfully grieved at that sight. Finally, when they met the Baba, they broke the sad news of Sheru's death to him. But Tajudeen Baba bluntly said, "That's impossible. Come, let us see." And the party proceeded along with the Baba to the spot where the dead body of Sheru lay. There he ordered one of them to put the body in a basket, and he then covered it with his own long shirt. Then he asked them to carry it to his tent. But hardly had they walked with him a little distance when Sheru jumped out of the basket to the stupefaction of one and all and ran to his master affectionately. Later, it lived for quite some time, and when finally it died, Tajudeen Baba covered its body with his own white shirt and got it buried. This place is specially preserved and marked even today and is considered to be a spot efficacious in curing dog bites. Girja Bai's miracle. Another famous instance of this type is that of a lady named Girja Bai, who was a courtesan and suffered from a dreadful disease which defied all treatments. Finally, she resorted to the service of Tajudeen Auliya. One day, Kashinath Patel's men found her dead in her tent and they reported the matter to the Patel. The latter sent a message to Tajudeen Baba and wanted to know whether her body was to be cremated or buried. But before the messenger reached the saint, who was sitting at a spot in the jungle, the latter had already sent tea through one of his devotees for Girja Bai. The two men met on the way. The Patel's man told Baba's man that he need not take the trouble of taking the tea to the tent of Girja Bai as she was dead. But the Baba's man was a staunch devotee of Hazrat Tajudeen Baba and refused to believe the Patel's man and decided to carry out the order of his master under any circumstances. He proceeded to Girja Bai's tent and found her dead actually. 3 or 4 ladies were sitting near the dead body, lamenting and wailing. Regaining his own composure at this mournful scene, the tea bearer from Baba Tajudeen slowly approached the dead body and called upon 3 times that Tajudeen Baba had sent tea for her. And lo, Girja Bai showed the first signs of revival at Baba's name by opening her mouth and sipping the tea slowly. Soon after she sat up and enquired where Tajudeen Baba was, and she came out of her tent. While all those who gathered there were awfully amazed, Tajuddin Baba himself came there and asked her to sing a devotional song which she rendered quite melodiously. News of this remarkable miracle spread all over the city like wildfire. Girjabai lived for many more years and died a natural death. Tukaram's case. Cases of miraculous healing are no less wonderful. For instance, one Tukaram suffered from a most obstinate type of cough for over 30 years. It not only deprived him of a peaceful sleep, but also defied all attempts of curing it. One of Tukaram's friends advised him to seek the blessing of the famous Muslim saint of Waki. At first, he did not take his advice seriously, but perhaps it was Tajuddin Baba who willed that Tukaram must go to him. He happened to accompany his Seth to Waki. During their stay, suddenly Tukaram had an impulse to take tea for Tajuddin Baba, and as he poured it in a silver tumbler and started for the Baba's abode, his stingy Seth objected to the tea being taken out in a costly silver tumbler for fear of losing it. Tukaram, however, stuck to his own wish and managed to take the tea to Tajuddin Baba in silver tumbler only. When he was still 100 yards away from the saint, the latter asked him, "Why bring the tea in that tumbler?" Those words immediately revealed the saint's omniscience to Tukaram, who at once prostrated before him and begged him to accept his humble offering. The merciful Baba accepted the same and taking the tumbler in his hand, said, "If only you had brought this tea 30 years ago, you would not have suffered so much all these years." While Tukaram was marveling at the saint's intimate knowledge of his ailment and its exact duration, the latter took up a pinch of dust and gave it to him, asking, "Eat it, you will be all right." Tukaram ate it and was instantaneously cured of his age-long disease, and that night was the first in 30 years when he slept soundly, undisturbed by his virulent cough. Even his Seth was surprised at this cure. Childless blessed with children. There were other kinds of petitioners to Baba. Many of them who were childless were blessed with children, and almost in every case there is unmistakable evidence that the miracle happened expressly at the command of this man of God. For instance, once two ladies came to Waki from Amravati. When they approached him, Tajuddin Baba was sitting on the steps leading to the river. Saluting him respectfully, the ladies revealed their sad plight to him. Both of them were married for over 12 or 13 years but were not blessed with children. Hearing their plight, Tajuddin Baba picked up 2 laddus, balls of sweets, from the sweets offered to him and gave one each as his prasad, token of blessing. One of the women ate it then and there with faith in the powers of the saint, but the other had little faith, so she stealthily let slip the laddu given to her in the sand below and covered it up cleverly so as not to be noticed by anyone. After a while, the ladies returned to Amravati. In the course of the next year, the one who had eaten the laddu had a son, but wondered why her companion was not blessed with a child. They once again started together and went to Waki, one to put her child at the feet of the saint in thanksgiving and to secure his future blessings for it, while the other was repentant at heart for her folly. Envious of the good fortune of her companion, the unfortunate lady decided to seek Baba's blessings again. When they arrived at Waki, the one happily got her child blessed by Tajuddin Baba, but the other was naturally full of shame. So she slapped her own cheeks before the saint as a sign of her repentance and pleaded with him, "Baba, where is my child?" And Baba Tajuddin coolly replied, "It is in the sand, take it out from there." She then frankly confessed her folly and imploringly begged his pardon. The saint was the embodiment of God's love, so he forgave her and again gave her something to eat. This time, she too was blessed with a child within a year of her return home. A convict released. There is another wonderful instance of Tajudeen Baba's amazing spiritual powers. Once, one Abdul Hassan, a fruit merchant, came to Waki to fulfill his vow of feeding the poor there. But when the cooking was going on, it rained very heavily and the fire in the hearth was extinguished and even the firewood floated in the pools of rainwater. The fruit merchant was at first slightly perturbed, but later decided to set up another hearth and cook the food again. In the meanwhile, a convict turned up before Hazrat Baba Tajudeen, securely bound hand and foot and flanked by 2 police constables. As soon as he saw the Baba, he burst out in tears and fell down at his feet, crying, "Merciful Baba, they are going to hang me. I am now brought to you because this was my last wish, which the court has been pleased to grant. Pray bless me with my release." The father of Abdul Hassan, the fruit merchant, was also standing by. Tajudeen Baba looked at him and ordered him to take the convict to the kitchen and feed him with what was cooked there. There was such authority in the Baba's command that none had guts to tell him that the rain had washed out the hearth and there was no food. So they silently took the convict to the kitchen. When the lid of the cooking cauldron was lifted, they were simply amazed to find the food ready, duly cooked, even when there was no fire or fuel. Only then they could understand the reason for the great authority that characterized the Baba's voice. They fed the convict in spite of continued rain, and not only him but everyone assembled there was fed to his heart's content. Later, on enquiring, the convict revealed his story of conviction. He said that he was extremely enraged at the sight of one of his employees having illicit intercourse with his daughter, and so he hacked the man to death. On hearing his story, Tajudeen Baba directed him to appeal to the higher court and assured him of acquittal. The convict obeyed and he was acquitted with the blessing of God. Maharaja Raghoji Rao Bhonsle's devotion. Such miracles were countless, and countless were the people who came to Waki every day to seek the blessings of Baba Tajudeen. One of the many distinguished visitors of the Baba was Maharaja Raghoji Rao Bhonsle, ex-ruler of Nagapur. He had several times requested the saint to go to his palace and stay there, but it was ignored. He once again pleaded him to accept his offer. The Baba had, on 2 occasions, already graced 2 Hindu houses by his stay. His first stay was at the Lal Koti, and his second one was with Kasinath Patel. This was the 3rd occasion of a Muslim saint's stay at his Hindu devotee's place. The reason for this is not far to seek. Tajudeen Baba was not merely his body. He was really the spirit of all religions, a man of God, and had transcended the narrow man-made communalism. The Sufi couplet quoted in the foregoing pages had struck his heart ever since his boyhood. It directed him to transcend all narrow communal barriers, and he did so liberally. While this fact surprised the common Muslims who could not see the spirit of his actions, the actions of Maharaja Raghoji Rao no less surprised the vast number of unenlightened Hindus who could not relish the fact of a Hindu worshipping and serving a Muslim peer so devotedly. However, not to disappoint the Maharaj this time, Baba Tajudeen acceded to live in his palace, and the prince put on not only the palace but also a buggy, horse-drawn carriage, servants, and all at the complete disposal of the saint. What is more, he himself also served him dutifully. This phase of Tajudeen Baba's life marked the height of his fame, which had already gone far and wide throughout the country. Strange phenomenon. In 1916, Sri Chincholkar of village Pusad, district Yotmal, was one of the visitors of Baba Tajudeen. He says he found the Baba in a furious mood, throwing burning sticks and bricks at the people who tried to approach him. Now and then he lost all senses in mystical absorption, and on waking up he flew into a rage. He even started setting fire to the clothes offered to him by devotees. None knew why he did so, and none dared to ask. We have a close parallel to this feature in Sai Baba of Shirdi also. On certain occasions, there were hints left by these godmen to the public indicating that they were furious at the internal enemies of man, and external manifestations are only symbolic of this state, because their actions also seem to have a magical effect in affecting the necessary internal burning up of all evil propensities. The promise of divine protection in return for true repentance for one's sins is the promise of God in all religions, but it was put forth very empathetically by Jesus Christ. But that this divine protection can extend right up to the repair of the material loss suffered by the victims of sin is best illustrated in Tajudeen Baba's miracles. For instance, a man who committed theft in a sweetmeat shop ran to Tajudeen Baba and prostrated before him in true repentance. The Baba gazed into his eyes for a moment and said, "Your business is done, go." Later, the owner of the shop also ran to Baba and complained to him of his heavy loss on account of the theft. The Baba coolly said, "Go and sit at home." The petitioner at first did not understand whether his petition was granted, but he had no alternative except to obey the saint's order. So he returned to his shop and resumed selling the remaining 2 baskets full of sweetmeats. Strangely enough, though he went on selling from morning to evening, the sweets were still there in the baskets, and in no time his loss was made good. Even subsequently, his fortune rose high, and by the grace of God and blessing of the Baba, he earned profits running into thousands of rupees. Powers of a Sufi Fakir. The powers of Sufi dervish are extended no less to the nature's forces. We have seen in one of the foregoing paragraphs how, with no fire in the hearth, the meal was ready by Baba's order. Similarly, a group of peasants ran to the saint and complained of the much delayed monsoon. They prayed to be saved from ruin. Hazrat Tajudeen ordered one of them to get a pot of water. He sat there sprinkling the water drop by drop on the fire in the hearth for 5 minutes. Immediately the clouds hovered in the sky and it started raining abundantly. It was not the much advertised kind of rain which our modern scientists have been trying to command at will. It was a real divine miracle. While Baba Tajudeen was staying at Sakardara Palace, people saw many instances of his reviving the dead. Ram Gulam Pandey of Jail Road, Nagapur, became Baba's devotee through such an experience. He bought a buffalo of good breed from the Punjab, as he was very fond of this animal, and set high hopes on its giving birth to a fine offspring. It did give a fine calf, but it died, and Ram Gulam was very much dejected. One of his neighbors suggested him to take the dead calf to Tajudeen Baba. As though in response to Ram Gulam's lighter vein, people found the saint himself approaching the crowd in his buggy. He got down, approached the dead calf and kicked it, and lo, the calf stood up alive. Leaving the crowd stunned, the Baba left the place hastily. Those who have read the miracles of Jesus Christ might wonder whether such things are possible in this age of Kali Yuga also. In Hazrat Tajudeen Baba's life, which was an open book to lakhs of people only a half a century ago, but there is a living example of that possibility with Indian saints for the scientific world to take a notice of. Deformities cured. Many were the people who flocked to Tajudeen Baba to cure them of deformities of body. A wealthy Marwadi Seth came from Delhi to Sakardara. His legs were mere useless appendages, and he had to crawl his way to Baba, whom he found in a restless mood. At the approach of the Seth, he sprang to his feet in a rage and kicked him, saying, "You buffalo, do you play tricks with me? Run away." The Marwadi Seth was so frightened at this unwelcome gesture. But Baba Tajudeen did not calm down. He shouted, "Don't you hear? I will kill you if you don't obey. I say run or I will beat you." The Seth immediately ran from the place to the wonder of the people who saw this amazing feat of the saint. Deputy Commissioner's experience. There are many classes of miracles. The brother of one Badur Prasad Tiwari was a famous Hakim, Unani doctor, who was posted to Nagapur as Deputy Commissioner. One day his brother took him to Baba Tajudeen at Sakardara to pay homage to the saint. Afterwards he proceeded to Saugar, where he met three sadhus, Hindu sages. In the course of conversation with them, he mentioned the illustrious greatness of Tajudeen Baba. But as the sadhus were sectarian Hindus, they paid little attention to the praise of a Muslim saint. The deputy commissioner told them how once one of his Hindu friends had the darshan of Lord Rama and Lord Shankara at Sakardara, but this too did not touch the minds of the sadhus. That night, the deputy commissioner had a dream in which he saw Tajudeen Baba approaching him. He stood up and saluted him. Then the saint said, "Come, I will take you on pilgrimage. Tell the three sadhus also to follow us." Then the four friends followed in the footsteps of Baba Tajudeen, who briskly walked ahead of them. Thus they visited many holy places like Gaya and Prayag. Then the Baba turned around and said, "Come, we will go to Jagannath." When the party reached Jagannath, one of the sadhus wanted to purchase a kamandal, a sadhu's water vessel. The deputy commissioner accompanied him to a roadside shop and purchased a kamandal for the sadhu. Later, they returned to the party, and here the dream ended. Next day, the deputy commissioner wanted to communicate his dreams to the three sadhus, but when he went to see them, they had already left Saugar. Then he proceeded to Sakardara to pay homage to Hazrat Tajudeen Baba, who had graced him in his dream. There, to his great surprise, he found one of the three sadhus with a kamandal in his hand, which exactly resembled the one he purchased for him in his dream. So he asked the sadhu as to how he got that kamandal. The sadhu replied, "How could you forget so soon? It is the same kamandal which you had purchased for me in Jagannath." While the deputy commissioner was still lost in wonder, Tajudeen Baba walked towards him and said, "Oh my dear child, of wealthy parents, why did you pay so much for a kamandal that only costs rupees 289? The deputy commissioner now realized that what they had experienced was not a simple dream. He fell down at Baba Tajudeen's feet in overwhelming gratitude for the wonderful experience and the mercy he showered on him.